Renovating Retirement with Charlie Jewett. Oh no, I think I'm about to have another episode. Good whatever time of day it is for you when you listen to this. To you folks, this is Charlie Jewett with the Renovating Retirement Podcast, and we're going to do episode 142. And before I get started, I just want to tell you, the life of a podcaster is really kind of interesting. It's a strange life. I mean, I'm sure some people are much more scheduled and robotic and regimented than I am because there's different personality types, but I never know what day I want to record. I don't know what time of the day I'm going to record. I get ideas in the shower, driving, ideas in the strangest places. I have this long list of titles. Probably my favorite part of the entire show is just writing titles. I don't know if you've enjoyed some of the previous titles. What if a giant chicken ate your spouse? Depends may be a large part of your retirement, but not that kind of depends. I don't even remember what that show was called. Is your advisor smarter than a fifth grader? I just like writing these interesting titles, and then I go, okay, let's make an outline about this. Now, podcasters, we're not necessarily writers, but I can certainly tell you that I get writer's block. I have times where I'm like, I want to love on my tribe. I want to give them incredible information. I want to put a podcast out. And I go, what do I want to talk about? And I can't do the cricket sound. I sure wish I had my friend Eric Esch from high school because he could do a cricket sound that was so good, so good. He would do his cricket sound from his seat in Spanish class and have our Spanish teacher looking around the room trying to find the cricket. I'm not condoning this behavior, although as a high school boy, it was the funniest thing ever. He'd also do sirens and getting her looking out the windows. I don't know if you can remember because this guy kind of disappeared from the movie scene, but there used to be a guy in the Police Academy movies, African-American actor, who could do all of these noises, like the most incredible noises. My friend Eric Esch in high school was like that, and man, did we have some laughs. But I can't do the cricket sound. But I don't have writer's block right now. Today, I was inspired. I thought up some things. I remembered some people I talked to, taking my kids to school. I thought, you know what? I need to provide some helpful analogies, because analogies help people learn so much better. You guys have heard me use some analogies like, hey, do you buy a car? Yes, I do. Is it a good investment? No, it's a crappy investment. Then why do you have a car? And the answers are basically because it makes my life awesome. So I did an entire episode on why, bad investments are the key to a great life, because basically income annuities are probably not going to appreciate. They're probably not going to, be worth more when you finish taking income from them than you put in. They're not going to be a way to leave a ton of inheritance or appreciation, just like a car, by the way. You drive the car, you use it, and then it's not worth what you paid. But they make your life awesome because you have a paycheck for life. Those types of analogies I find incredibly useful. I remember the person, actually the son of the person who trained me in the life insurance industry in 2005, would talk about indexed universal life insurance policies where you're doing what's called a 5-pay. And if you guys are working with us, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you're going to put in $100,000 a year over 5 years to comply with TEFRA and not anger the IRS and keep all your tax-free treatment, you're going to put in $20,000 a year for 5 years instead of dumping the whole $100,000 in up front. Well, it never looks good. In year 2, it looks terrible. Look, you're paying for the whole policy, but you only have, $40,000 out of the $100,000. So you have 40% of your premium in, but you have the expenses of the whole policy. And people are like, I hate this investment. It's terrible. Look how many fees are coming out. Darn it. And this man's son very intelligently said, you know what? Pretend you bought a 5-story apartment building as a rental, and you had the expenses on it, the mortgage, you had the insurance and all the repairs and everything. But only 40% of the units were rented, or only 2 floors were rented. So you had a 5-story apartment building. The first 2 floors were rented. Floor 3, 4, and 5 were completely vacant. Would you expect to be turning an amazing profit that year? And people always said, well, goodness gracious, no, like 60% of the building is empty. You say exactly. So we just need to get this thing rented. Once it's rented, all 5 floors are rented, it's a cash cow. And that's how life insurance works when set up properly. So I find analogies to be super helpful. Now, honestly, some of what I share might be an analogy, might be a metaphor, might be a simile, but I don't know. I'm not an English person. Call Grammar Girl. Listen to the Grammar Girl podcast. She'll set you straight over there. I do numbers, and grammar ain't my thing, brah. So let's get into it. What could be some helpful analogies? I knew a guy that was a college football coach turned financial advisor. We're hanging out with him one night after an event talking. My friend Andy Guzzi and I are with him. And he says, you know what he's from the South, so you can say all kinds of crazy things. He's like, yeah, guys, you know what I tell my clients? When my clients come in, I say, listen, this is like a football game. And the only two outcomes are you can tie or you can win. How'd you like playing football if you never lost? You could just tie or win every single time. I thought, what? That's a good way of putting this. Things like indexed annuities, indexed universal life, or as you've heard me teach, risk is not only optional, risk has been failing to deliver on its promises for the last 18 years. So we may want to consider not having risk. And in that world of indexed annuities, indexed universal life, indexed CDs, things like that, where market goes down, you can't lose, market goes up, you get some of the gains, he's right. Like, you can only tie or win. And that's awesome. I love that. So that analogy was super helpful for me. Another person said, like, what if you could go to Vegas or Atlantic City, or we have casinos here in California too. What if you go to the casino, have your fun, and know that you'd go home with exactly what you came with? That would make your spouse happy, or more, which would make everybody happy. So what if you could play the game, be in the game, having the fun, gambling, and know for sure that you either leave with the same amount of money you started with or win every single year? And I like that one too. I think that's a very helpful way to look at the new world of investing, the world which is making higher returns than the stock market over 18 years and doesn't require risking any of our money. I like that one. This one's out of the box. I don't know if he's a rock climber. I've only seen him speak once, but I was at a conference and a guy said, he tells people there's two ways to do rock climbing. You can do it with a safety rope or without a safety rope, which I think is called free climbing, right? And I was thinking about that because I have my girlfriend has a family member, and they do a ton of rock climbing, and sometimes we'll go with them. And guys, like, heights are not my thing. Like, I'm better now. Like, now, I used to, like, on roller coasters, I was like in a panic. Now we have so many kids, and we have passes to Magic Mountain, and I go on these roller coasters that are like 280-foot drops, and I'm somehow, through listening to Tony Robbins, Byron Katie, the people that I study to train my mind and everything, somehow I've been able to come to peace with enjoying the fall and kind of leaning into it and not being afraid of height. Now, I wouldn't listen. We saw a roller coaster the other day. Actually, that roller coaster, it's called Goliath. It's at Magic Mountain, the roller coaster that goes up 280 feet and drops you. We saw it stop at the top of the hill and wouldn't work anymore. And everybody had to get off and walk down a set of stairs along the edge of the track. My heart would stop, okay? Like, I got myself where I could be in the roller coaster knowing I'm about to fall. If you stopped and said, can you please walk down while looking over the edge 280 feet in the air, I'd probably just pass out and die. But I don't like heights, so I don't rock climb, but I watch these people rock climb, and sometimes it's hard for me even to watch, but they use safety ropes. And the guy usually they do mostly bouldering, so they climb one way on the high side of the mountain to the top of this boulder, do their connecting of whatever, drop a rope down, they cry, rope, right? And usually hits somebody in the head. Guy comes back around, his wife's holding it, belaying him. What a great word, bole. I just want to do a shot and say, bole, or is that oompa or opa, or somehow I'm mixing like Greeks and the Wizard of Oz. I'm not sure what's going on with me this morning. But he climbs up this rope, and his wife is belaying him, and he's sticking his... I don't understand any of it. I can tell you this. If you made me go on a rock of any height, I want the safety rope. So I know two things. Either I don't fall, that's good, or I fall and I'm okay and don't suffer any losses. Same thing. Indexed annuities, indexed universal life. I like that analogy too. How about this one? The martingale strategy. If you guys look on Google and study the martingale strategy, most of you would know this more as the phrase doubling down. Maybe you never knew where it came from or what it really means, but pretend for a moment that there were businesses around town. They wouldn't last long, but there's businesses around town, and you came in and they said, bet any amount you want to whether this coin is going to be heads or tails, and they flip a coin. Flip, you said, I think it's going to be tails, right? You put down $100. I think it's going to be tails. Flip a coin, comes up heads. You lose. You're out $100. Do you want to play again? You say, yeah, I want to play again, gosh darn it. How much do you want to bet? I want to bet $200. You're going to double down. You're going to double the bet you just lost. And he says, what do you want to bet, heads or tails? You say tails. All right, flips the coin. Comes up heads. Ah, darn it all. I like to win in the first 2 tries. I'm impatient. He says, all right, you're out $300 now, basically, right? Because you bet $100 the first time, you bet $200 the second time. Do you want to go again? Yes, I do. What do you want to do? You say $400. You're going to double down on that $200 bet you did last time. What do you want? Tails. Flip. Comes up tails. You win $400, but you're out the $300 you spent. But what did you win? You won the $100 you were trying to win on your first bet when you bet $100. Now, sometimes if you flip a coin enough times, it can go 8, 9, 10 times on the same landing, tails or heads, but it's never going to do that forever. You understand there's a 50-50 chance when you flip a coin that it's going to be whatever you've chosen. And that's why roulette wheels have that green slice on it. If you've never studied this, no gambling facility can offer 50-50 odds, because if your pockets are deep enough, you will always win. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. They can't allow that. The house has to have an edge. And I'm going to do another whole episode on, well, if the house always wins, why don't you just become the house and teach you how to do that? When it's 50-50, all you have to do is double down and you win. You can't do it on the roulette wheel. You can't do it in gambling. I traded foreign currencies full-time for 2.5 years. You can't do it, even though it sounds like 50-50. I used to go, wait a minute, there's only 2 things that can happen. If I buy right now, the market can either go up or the market can go down. Don't I have a 50-50 chance? But no, you don't, because they charge you fees when you purchase and when you sell, and that skews the odds a little bit to, 47-53 or whatever it is. But what can you do? It's a little bit like doubling down. If you look at the internal workings, and you don't have to do this, my team can explain it to you, or you can just hear what I'm about to say. If you look at the internal workings of indexed annuities, indexed CDs, indexed universal life insurance, mostly the annuities and life insurance, what they're really doing is buying the market for a 1 or 2 year period, saying we think it's going to go up. All right. We think it's going to go up over 1 year. We wait a year later, it didn't go up. It actually went down. Darn it all, we lost money. What do they do inside of your fund or your product that you have? They buy it again at the cheaper price. And for that cheaper price, they might get more options. They're really buying options. So they have the same amount of money to spend. They buy more of them because they're cheaper. Market goes down again. They spend the same amount of money buying cheaper, whatever it is. It's not a perfect analogy. I'm okay with that. But what happens when you don't lose money ever and you keep buying as something goes down, 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 the probability that it's going to go up again increases. So it's a way of getting probabilities on your side and winning every single time. And for that reason, I like that analogy, metaphor, simile, or whatever it is. Call Grammar Girl. I don't do grammar. How about my analogy of the clairvoyant broker? If you look into my past podcast episodes, you'll find one that says, what if you could find a clairvoyant financial advisor or a clairvoyant day trader or whatever it is? That's something that I came up with a long time ago when I was looking at charts and thinking, like, wait a minute. The best trader in the world, like a total, I was going to say psychopath, but that's not what it means when people can study the future. That's a very different thing. They end people's futures, right? What do they call? Psychic, yeah. If you find somebody who's a clairvoyant or a psychic or knows the future or went to the future and came back, like Michael J. Fox before he had Parkinson's. What were those movies? Back to the Future, yeah. Back to the Future 1 through 32 or however many they made. If someone was perfect and you're looking at a chart, and you can find charts like this on my charliespictures.com, they bought the market at the top. I'm sorry, they sold their stocks at the top right before the market was going to crash. Didn't lose any money. And then at the very bottom, when it was about to start growing again, they bought. Then at the very top, they sold. The very bottom, they bought. And they just kept doing that. Just kept catching all of the profits both ways. Maybe even shorting the market at the top, buying it at the bottom. Short it at the top, buy it at the bottom. That clairvoyant broker doesn't exist. The best investors in the industry buy a little bit after the bottom, and they sell a little bit before or after the peak. So they're not perfect. They're just creating a spread. I don't know if you can picture that. So the clairvoyant broker doesn't exist. But listen to this. Seriously, listen to this. Say you buy an indexed annuity or an indexed universal life insurance policy, and you say, if the market goes up, I make some money. If the market goes down, I don't lose anything. So at the end of the year, the market's up, and you made some money. That's exactly the same as you buying the market before it goes up. That's awesome. But what if it's down? The market goes down, you don't make a penny, but you don't lose anything. That's exactly the same as if you sold before the market went down or chose not to buy yet. So the indexed annuity or the indexed universal life insurance policy is as close as you can get to having a clairvoyant, perfect broker. Now, if that person existed, do you think they'd work for free? I don't think so. They'd want to be paid for being that awesome, right? So they'd say, I'm never going to lose you money. Everything's going to go great, but we're going to share in the profits. Guys, you don't get a closer analogy to what really exists in the indexed universal life or indexed annuity world. When the market goes down, you don't lose. That's exactly like the perfect broker got you out of the market or didn't buy. When the market goes up, you get some of it, 50% for you, 50 for them, first 8 for you, the rest for them, first 3 to them, the rest for you, whatever. It's exactly like you have the perfect broker who's like, I'm not working for free. We're going to share in the profits. And I love that. Now, the other day, my girlfriend and I were driving to Mexico for dental work because part of our financial plan is to not pay 3 or 4 times as much money for dental work if we could just drive across the border and get it done by people that even live over here and they drive across the border to run businesses. And there's amazing dentists in Mexico. I'm sure they're not all amazing, but you find amazing ones, and we have friends there, so we like to go. And I don't know if you know San Diego highways, but we're coming from north on the 15, and we're going to Mexicali, and it's like, well, you can either go down the 15 and make a left on the 8, or you can go down the 15, make a left on the 52 to the 67 to the 8, and it's like a little shorter sometimes. And I say, babe, what are we doing? What's the GPS saying is shorter? And we're scrambling and coming up on the exit for the 52, and we couldn't figure it out in time. So we're like, whatever, I'll take the 52. I pull off, get on the 52 east. 2 minutes in, comes to a dead standstill. Nothing. 3-4 lanes of traffic, giant shoulder on the right-hand side that could fit 2 trucks. Nothing. Guys, we didn't move for 45 minutes. Nothing. And we're trying to read the news. At that point, traffic is horrible, and I hate traffic going 5 or 10 miles an hour. I was begging to go 5 or 10 miles an hour because we had not moved in so long and couldn't figure out what was going on. We tried to look on Waze. People were chatting back and forth. The only thing we could find is somebody chatting with a police officer, and she said, I wish I'd brought weed if I knew it was going to be 45 minutes. We're like, I don't know if you should say that to a cop. Strange choice. Yes, marijuana is legal in California, but not while you're driving, weirdo. Strange situation. Then we started moving. I'm like, yes! I finally can see what's going on because my curiosity was killing me. I was expecting to see a bunch of totaled cars and everything. We get up there. Just some glass on the road and nothing. There was nothing we could see to know why it was that bad. Why am I talking about traffic on a financial planning podcast? Because it was so annoying to not go anywhere and only go nowhere or finally forward. Really annoying. But can you imagine if there was a giant conveyor belt on the side of the road? So instead of a shoulder, there's this huge flat escalator, kind of like in an airport, but going backwards. And at random, some forklift or tow truck came and moved you over onto that conveyor belt and took you backwards to the end of the line. And then you sat there and waited, and then it took you backwards again, and took you backwards again. I hate traffic, but basically traffic in general is moving slowly and moving slower forward than you'd want to. Occasionally traffic is complete standstill like I had to experience. But the one thing that's never happening in traffic is that somebody's taking you and moving you backwards and you're losing ground. Can you imagine that existing? That's the stock market. I'm not anti-stock market. From 1970 to 1999, it was worth it, compounded at 13.5%. Over the last 18 years, it's more like 2.5 to 4.5%. And there's a bunch of backwards moves, 2000, 2001, 2008, 2009, whatever we have coming up here. That's like being put in the back of the line in traffic, and it's not emotionally comfortable. And by the way, if you're taking an income from a stock portfolio or a portfolio of mutual funds or whatever, you are the conveyor belt. In any year that it's flat or down, you're the conveyor belt taking you backwards, even further into the back of the line. Now you gotta make up ground just to get back to where you'd already gone to, right? This is more like, have you ever done this? You're driving somewhere and you realize you forgot something at home. Ugh, it's one of the worst feelings of my life. You have to go back and then drive a drive you've already driven and lose 10, 15 minutes. Not my favorite. That's the stock market. That's the whole world of old school investing for people that haven't studied the new world. So hopefully that analogy is a little bit helpful for you. But now let's play with it a little bit. Ping pong, ping pong. Let's knock it around. Let's reverse this thing and say, how would it be? What would my life be like if all of my expenses either stayed exactly the same or went down for the rest of my life? Now, ignore inflation, because in this make-believe world I want to paint for you that we wish existed, I want to pretend there's no such thing as inflation. Like if you're buying bread today for $3, in 20 years it's either $3 or less than that. Everything stays the same, including taxes and rent and all that, or it gets cheaper. Imagine that fairy tale world where you're thinking, I have a great life right now, and my expenses are going to be the same forever. No, there's no such thing as inflation. Taxes never go up. Rents and mortgages never go up. Cost of food never goes up. Cost of gas never goes up. Cars, vacation never goes up. Or you could just say, what if I bought a car and had to guarantee it was worth exactly what I paid or more when I sold it? You can play with this as much as you want to, but here would be the perfect, just dream world nirvana scenario for where we could live. All of your assets, there's no such thing as losses. You knew if you had money in your wallet, your bank, the market, the value of your car, the value of your house, we knew they would always be exactly the same or better no matter how long you live. No losses, period. And then on the expense side of that, we knew that your expenses would never, ever go up. They'd always be exactly the same or less. So your expenses couldn't go up, your assets couldn't go down, so you were guaranteed to have the same great life you always had, or better, because your expenses could go down, your assets could go up. Now we know that doesn't exist. We cannot have both sides of that, but news alert, you can have one of them. I feel like at my company, we have some of the happiest clients in the world because we are never calling them saying, you lost money, right? Sometimes they call us and say, it looks like I lost money. We say, oh yeah, that's because you're in a strategy that has fees for either guaranteed income or for avoiding taxes on income, and the market was flat last year, so it went down by the fees. We're going to double down, buy options again. The chances of the market going up, your probabilities are on your side. This thing's going to work out. Yeah, love it. So you can't have both sides of this, but you can have one side of this. Why would anybody choose to have none of this? Like, I want to live in a world where my expenses are probably going to go up and my assets could go down and I could go on the backwards conveyor belt. And this is, I'm not exaggerating, by the way. If you look at the S&P 500 from 2000 until now, you can find 7-year periods, even 10-year periods, the lost decade, where your account was up at one place, it went down, up, and took 7 to 10 years to get back to the money you already had. God, if I lost 7 to 10 minutes on a highway because somebody knocked me onto a conveyor belt going backwards and I had to retrace my steps, or I had to go back to my house and lost 7 to 10 minutes, I'll even like that. 7 to 10 years? And there's another problem. You lost 7 to 10 years of compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world. You have no idea how devastating backwards moves are for you, and they're not needed. You know what? If you're going to play sports, play in a way that you can only tie or win. If you're going to gamble, gamble in a way that you can only end up with the same exact money, so your spouse is happy, or more money, so everybody's happy. If you're going to climb a rock, for heaven's sakes, climb a rock that says you either make it to the top safely, or you fall, you're a little embarrassed, but the rope catches you and you don't die and you have a good laugh over a beer. If you're going to flip a coin, or play roulette, not Russian roulette, the roulette wheel, play it in such a way that you have a true 50-50% chance. And every time you lose, you're doubling down, and you always win your money back. If you're going to play in the market, find yourself a clairvoyant broker who wins every time. Wait, they don't exist. Oh, take the next best thing. Where, if the market goes down, you're already out, as if you went to cash. When the market goes up, it's as if you bought, and you got to participate, but you had to pay somebody because they're the clairvoyant who told you what to do. And if you're going to drive a car, do it in such a way where you stay off the roads that have the backwards conveyor belts. Traffic's fine. If you're going to go slow, no problem. You come to a standstill, it's kind of frustrating, but still no problem. If you're sailing along at 65, no problem. But for heaven's sakes, don't have a forklift put you on a backwards treadmill and take you to the back of the line like a loser where you got to retrace your steps. Other than that, I don't have any strong opinions on the subject. Charlie Jewett out. You people are the best.
But that's all, folks.